Hey guys, it's Jen. So I'm here to bring you a video, and I threw up a little disclaimer on here because I'm not a doctor or a scientist. I'm just sharing my research with you guys. This activate code here, um, first of all, don't Google a lot of this stuff. You're going to have to find a better browser because Google offers one page of results. Now I hop over to Bing, and you're going to see here in a second, Bing just it gave me pages and pages of results. And I started just digging around. One thing that stuck out to me were the Google patents, and I can't remember if it was that one or the cancer genes, but I just started digging around and I came across this patent by the US Patent Trade Office, and it's basically just pages and pages and pages, and finally when you get to the bottom you start seeing things that talk about human DNA sequences, and it seems like they're splicing genes. They actually reference splicing later on. I think this is a journal or log, and it says human DNA sequence in progress from clone, and it gives a number. And so that to me says that they are cloning or splicing genes that are half human and cloning them, and possibly experimenting on them with different viruses and cancers. And it talks about how there were thousands of clones. They're looking for cellular defense associated proteins. And then from there, they break down how they categorize them based on the proteins that they find. And they talk about the banks where they get a lot of these, the human genes and stuff like that. The one bank that they reference is the OMIM, Online Mendelian Inheritance in Man, which is it's basically genes and diseases of humans. It's a database for it. And so they talk about RNA splicing, processing, DNA binding, RNA binding, like cloning. And so then they break down even more categories. And let me tell you, I found pages, and it took me at least a day to read through everything, and I just picked out what I thought was like explosive, and I put it up here for you guys to see. I highlight some stuff in blue because I want to bring your attention to it. I would like somebody who is trained, in this, to give me a comment, or, bring me an email. I want to read this part to you. It says, here closer to the bottom, based on the homology search using the full-length sequences, it says the clone names and gene definitions found in the result of homology search are shown below, separated with a double slash mark. So the clone names and gene definitions are shown below, separated with a double slash mark. And I put the in a minute here, I'll put the definition of homology up so you can see that. But you can see clearly Homo sapiens, and then it tells you how it's breaking down this log for you. And it says the name of the clone, the definition of the top hit data that they get from, I guess there's, software looking at it. Yeah, there's the definition of homology. It's basically they're looking for corresponding structures. And I believe when you see these CDSs, I believe that means complete DNA sequence. You will also see references to animals, dogs, cats. There's a big emphasis on HIV, herpes. I believe E. coli was one, and this let me know I was on the right track. Was that T cell receptor? Sorry. And I'll go into that later. But I basically am highlighting here just, Epstein-Barr virus, herpes virus, and then, human DNA sequence from clone on chromosome, blah, blah, blah. You can see Caltech, Roswell Park Cancer, Livermore, Lawrence Livermore. Those are United States and, close by places. So are they doing that here? They're getting it from, places in the United States, these genes, and it tells you about the databases and the banks that they get this DNA from. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're getting some of this stuff from, those aborted fetuses that, everybody was talking about earlier I think it was last year. But here it says approved human genome, sperm library, and then human DNA sequence from clone. And here's the actual, it says Gerard is the one who applied for the patent. He is with Harvard, and he talks about chemokines, which is basically they're looking at the immune response to infection. And I'm going to bring that up later on in the video because I want to tie in some things and just, get your mind jogging on that. But anyway, so here the Guardian tells us the creation of two monkeys brings cloning closer to reality, but that doesn't mean it will happen. Talking about human clones, well, it's already happening if you believe this patent here. So, medicines for treating autism. Now, autism, basically the medicines that they use to treat autism are stuff like SSRIs, antipsychotics, benzodiazepines, speed, and opiate stimulants. And all of these suppress immune function and especially the GI tract. Like I know if you take pain medicine, it blocks you up, and speed messes with you. Well, your body's serotonin is produced and found in the gut, and that is in direct link to your immune system. Well, if all of those medicines suppress your immune system, they're just keeping you sick. And so on to the next page of this, it says that the doctors made this connection a long time ago, and one guy published in the New England Journal of Medicine colon irrigation in the treatment of mental disease, and people said, oh, that's quackery, he's a quack, whatever. But I'm thinking that's actually right. And the Ritalin and Adderall that they give, that also messes with the immune system. So they're keeping you sick. And I remember a doctor talking a long time ago about how gluten is really bad for kids who have been diagnosed with the autism, because they're basically allergic to it, and the medicines that the doctors put them on suppress their immune system response. And this is all surrounding the T cells, which, if you remember, Q actually mentions T cells. I couldn't find it, but if I do find it, I will link it in the description box below. But one thing I do want you to pay attention to is the lower portion of this where it says integrin A4B7 on activated T cells, and then it talks about CD8 T cells. Keep those, phrases in mind, because I want to show you a medical article that I found talking about the same thing that homeopathic doctor was talking about. Gluten triggers activation of CD4 and CD8 ABT cells in celiac disease. There are connections, and these homeopathic doctors may have been making those connections, and that's no good for big pharma. So these doctors that are turning up dead, I wouldn't be surprised if it had to do with what we're talking about here. You were chosen for a reason. And so, anyway, let me know what you guys think in the description box below. Sorry it was so short, but I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks.